Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again to this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Bruce Broussard, your host. And folks, as you know, we're right in the midst of campaigns all over the place. I mean, from a national perspective and from a local perspective. And in all due respect, but again, we sort of lost some sense of our normal process, if you will. And what I mean by that is that we've got this coronavirus thing aspect of it, and again, like I said, all of the politics and whatever. But normally we're about ready to basically celebrate Mother's Day, just recognizing moms. You know, sometimes dad is a mom nowadays, but again, moms, Mother's Day. And matter of fact, we're going to just stop for a moment and forget about politics a bit or whatever. And I want to go on and recognize Mother's Day. See? So that's what we're going to do. I've got several candidates that are on with me today. I've got Manuel. Manuel is from Washington County. I'll just use the first name because
yes.
We got Manuel, and then I've got Jack. Jack is on the other end here. You've seen Jack before on the show. He's running for city council, and then Fred Stewart is normally there. Normally he's kind of like a co-host or whatever. He's been around and he's pretty well certified, these guys already. But the fact of the matter is, we're going to spend some time this first half hour or the first segment of the show. We know this is an hour show. We're going to talk a little, give them the opportunity to talk a little bit about mom, okay? And so why don't we do it this way? I'll just basically say that, I had my mom, she was great. We grew up in Louisiana with Creole and this, that, and the other. And my dad worked in the oil field when he went to Texas, and mom was there. Mom was always the one that held everything together. So I come from a really solid family aspect of it. And she's passed away like right now, but I really miss her. And again, like I said, she was quite a mom. And so that basically, I'll just stop with that because you can go through my history logs here on Oregon Voters Digest. I talk about it. In fact, I've got photos of her and things of that nature. So we'll just go with that. So I'll give these other guys a little bit more time so they can chat a little bit about their mom and maybe because they're doing politics, having to quote knock on doors. In this case, at home and wherever they go, they still want to recognize other mothers and this, that, and other. They may have something else to say. So with that, we're going to open it up now. Now that I'll let Jack just go up first right off the bat because he just happened to. Hey, I don't know whether or not, man, you're married, aren't you? You're married?
Yes.
Okay, he's married. So is your wife there today with you?
Yes. Downstairs.
Okay, good. So what I would like to do is that if it's okay, guys, each of you just get the wife to come on up and stick her head in the deal and just say, hey, hi, whatever. Jack, I told Jack this. Maybe he might. I don't know what it is because I know he has to do what he has to do what he's told every day. I want you to recognize.
Bruce, I've been married for 41 years,
Hey.
so I can tell you she outranks me.
I know that. I know that. That's why I'm saying I'm recognizing her now. You are, hey, you're a solid citizen. I mean, that's key. It's very important. Otherwise, you got to justify why you're not. So right now, why don't we go with Jack? Jack, why don't you start off?
All right. Since today, the objective of today is to show respect and honor to our mothers.
Mm-hmm.
I'll always remember my mother. She passed away in 1985, but she was originally from North Carolina. She met my father, and then they moved to Oklahoma, where I was born. And she was a homemaker most of her life, except during the Second World War, where she worked in the post office. And then after the war, she went back to being a homemaker. And then my father passed away when I was 15, and so she took a job working in a elementary school cafeteria so we could keep the house over our heads. And I started work as well in a restaurant at night after school. And she worked all her life trying to make sure that the house was always taken care of and she had enough food on the table. So respect and honor. She taught me a lot of things. A very bright woman, a very smart woman. And a woman that I love very dearly. And it was a sad day when she passed away in 1985.
Hey, Jack. All right. Manuel, how about you?
Well, I think we all can be proud of one thing. If there's only one thing we can't say we don't have, and that's a mother. We all have a mother. And I don't know how most of us would have done without a mother. But in my case, my mom was 15 years old when she married my dad, and she is still working here with me at work. She's 80. She's gonna be 81 years old.
Wow.
And I have her here working all the time because I want her to live a long, long, long time more. And when
Awesome.
people have a purpose in life, they live longer.
Hmm.
They are feel proud because they're contributing. And so we really, all of us kids, she had 12 kids, so all of us are
Wow.
very proud of her.
Great.
And and I think putting up with 12 kids, it's a big job. So happy Mother's Day, Mom. We love you much.
Awesome. Awesome. Is mom there? You know me. I'm opening.
So
Is mom there?
we have practically everything. We have been working here. You know, we have 46 employees
Really? Okay.
in the company, but my mom is the only one. I told her, don't come here, Mom, because this virus thing is it's
Ah,
pretty risky for people of her age. If you're
gotcha.
over
Okay.
80, it becomes a lot more problematic. So she'll come in as soon as things clear up a little bit.
Good. 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 Well, guys, you know, I said before, I invited the wives, and you guys,
Oh,
the
they,
boss.
no, mine is down below, so I would have to go downstairs to grab her.
Jack, are you okay?
Well, my wife's here, but she's tied up with some work for Bible Study Fellowship, which she teaches a class. Actually met my wife when I was in Canada,
Okay.
and 3 weeks, 4 weeks after I met my wife, we were married, and we've been together for 41 years. November 17th will be our 42nd wedding anniversary, and she's been with me around the world through Asia, Australia, Africa, Europe, South America,
Awesome.
and of course across the United States.
Well, look, guys, both of you, I'm sure on the campaign trail, are you getting a feel for the kind? As women say, there are a lot of moms out there, you know, that are looking at you to deal with their kids and public safety and things of that nature. Have you sort of encountered? Are you encountering some of those women out there who are asking you the questions and talking to you about education for their kids and things of that nature? Either one, Manuel or
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, of course. I mean, people I talk to, most of them are concerned about basic stuff. It's not about what sometimes we see on TV where people are fighting about divisive issues. They're really just scared about their kids. They want to make sure their kids thrive in life later when they grow up. They want to make sure that we have a safe community and that we can get into Portland and out in less than 3 hours from Beaverton. And those are the issues that they care about. They care about their parks, their sidewalks and streets, and work, obviously, because when the economy is not well, then nobody is in a good mood. So we need to make sure here in our communities to provide an environment for people to thrive with a good economy.
okay. Jack, what do you think?
Well, when I've talked to people, actually, the issues in Portland, there's a long list of very serious issues. And of course, with the pandemic, we've added another very serious issue on the top of that list. Usually, the first questions I'm asked about is homelessness. So I explain about the research I've done and what has worked around the United States and why some of the programs that only focus on housing have failed, and we failed in several states across the Western US. And most successful program, the analog out of San Antonio in Haven for Hope, and how that could be applied to a model in Portland, and the potential successful operation of Bybee Lakes facility that will hopefully be opening in September. Then the next question is affordable housing, and I discussed with them about how the city has been driving up the cost for housing with fees and permitting times, and also new policies on rent control are actually driving up, causing landlords to increase the price of housing across the city on rental properties. And then when we talk about the economy, there is a growing fear about how this pandemic is going to negatively impact the economy, not just globally or in the country, but specifically in Portland, and how I do have experience. In fact, the only candidate who is a commissioner who has experience of actually turning around businesses, because that's what I did in the energy sector. Companies would recruit me to try and turn around operations when revenues may have dropped 50, 75%, and how I had experience working with governments, heads of states, unions, obviously corporations and employees to reinvigorate a business and operation to make it successful. And they're encouraged by the fact that I've told them that I believe that clearly can be done here in Portland with the right leadership. There are other issues as well, including the environment. There's a strong concern about what our city can do and do a better job of improving the air quality and the overall water quality of our city. And of course, fiscal responsibility. All the people that I talk to really become extremely upset when they see cost overruns for projects 200, 300, 400%. And the city doesn't seem to have any concern about how they spend, in fact, actually waste taxpayer money. So those are the main issues that people are concerned about.
Okay, good. You know, Manuel, I was thinking about your running for county up in Washington County there. I can remember when I ran for the county here, Multnomah County, and then you got the city and you kind of, I'm sure you probably in a sort of a similar situation.
Yeah.
Kind of times to deal with most of the social issues, mental illness and things of that nature, or even senior citizen housing and this, that, and the other, the Meals on Wheel, all that kind of stuff. Why not? How does it work there in Washington County? Are those some of your issues?
So actually, some of the same issues that Jack mentioned a little bit ago are the same, are also concerns for Washington County. We have the same issues. Housing is terribly expensive for people that have normal jobs. When we first moved to Washington County in 1979, we spent some time working in the fields, picking strawberries and working in nurseries and agriculture. But we were working in nurseries and we were able to afford to buy a home. Right now, can you imagine someone doing that? But at home, we paid like $55,000, a fairly new home, 3-bedroom, nice home. And right now, with $55,000, I'd be surprised if you can pay the permit fees. you would be
I heard that.
you would be surprised if you could get that far. So we have definitely been, but I think some of the costs for housing has been driven due to obviously inflation and other things that drive costs, but governments have driven the cost themselves a lot by the policies they have put in place, and Jack mentioned a few of them, but there are a few other ones too that I'm very aware that are driving this cost, to the point where a lot of people can't afford it. So some people can still afford it, of course, but there are way too many that cannot. In my case, I've been blessed to be helping out as a volunteer and serving in many boards and committees. And currently, I'm serving on the oversight affordable housing committee for Metro, and I could see that we could be providing almost twice as many units for the same money, but it's a very difficult thing to get people to get on board and see that there are possibilities to improve things. And there's an opportunity there, but we need more leaders that understand that that we will never have enough money to pay to build our way out the way we're doing it. It's too expensive. The last units that were approved here for Washington County, they're costing $405,000 for 1 and 2 and 3 bedroom apartments. That's too much. That's more than twice as what we pay the private sector. Our company works a lot in building homes. In fact, we build together with other contractors, over 5,000 units in the Portland metro area in the last few years. And those units are not costing anywhere that kind of money. They're costing more like around $150,000 per unit.
Oh, that's awesome. Where have you been?
Well, but I'm trying to convince them that there are ways to build them cheaper. But it's going to take a lot more the public getting involved and say, no, we can't build this. We can't have everything. You have to start making priorities and choosing what's more important.
Okay.
And so I believe we could be doing a lot better, but we have to be smarter about it.
No,
I think
when I think about what you were saying, I think about during my days, I built a senior citizen complex, a 38 unit senior citizen complex in a so-called poor neighborhood, so to speak. The whole idea was to basically input the output. You know, seniors were living in older homes and they couldn't maintain them and whatever. And I was going to condominiumize the units that I was putting together. And therefore they could still maintain even the ownership aspect of it. But the bottom line is we'd have the facilities to accommodate them downstairs and the services, and actually work very closely with the Urban League up in the North Portland area. But I tell you, the politics of doing something right, unfortunately, they have to be a task. Trust me. I mean, I was going to build more than that, but my point is that there was so much opposition. There was just so much opposition, and there was the leadership wasn't there to understand what I was doing. They was just basically putting out the units, and as you say, the cost was just going up. You know what I mean? And so that's one of the reasons why I really admire both of you guys, because we're really in need of leadership. Bring it back home, if you will, and be a little bit more sensitive about the input output. Because when a person gets to be a senior citizen and they've worked hard all their lives, some of them can maybe retain their homes, but then they're faced with taxes and all kinds of things that basically all of a sudden they're looking at evictions for that matter. Like right now, okay? Or if not there,
if I can interject just a comment here.
yeah, go on.
When we talk about building homes, even in the private sector, what's happening in Portland is the city bureaus are adding significant costs. The Home Builder Association for the Portland metropolitan area gave me an example. They were building two modest size homes, one 1,200, one 1,400 square feet in Southeast Portland as part of an infill project. Well, the first thing that happened is the permitting costs for each of these homes went up from $22,000 to $48,000. The second thing that happened as soon as the permit was approved, Portland Bureau of Transportation, PBOT, came in and told them they had to tear out the existing sidewalk and replace it with a new enhanced sidewalk, install two new lights, street lights, and also cut down two trees that were considered mature trees. So they did that, and that was an additional $150,000. And when that was finished, then the Parks and Recreation came in and fined them $60,000 for cutting down the two new trees. So what effectively happened is the city bureaus had added $150,000 on two modestly priced homes, which are now going to be very overpriced. On top of that, talking with homeowners, I talked to one lady in Southeast Portland in the Lents area, and she had retired and was on a pension. She had to return to work because the cost for property taxes on her modest home, 1,200 square feet approximately, were so going up, continually going up, she could not afford to live on her pension there. So she's actually had to go back to work. We have to just stop approving what I call random expenditures. We have to look at the cost benefit analysis of each of these and recognize the advantages and the disadvantages, not just simply do something that makes a sellable headline in the newspaper or in the media.
I really appreciate that, guys, because as you know, running for mayor and this, that, and the other, again, we need the kind of leadership and the communication that you guys that we're sharing right now. That's what we need. That's what we need. A lot of times they're saying government is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But you got to have a chairperson that understands. It's as if to say, if you don't have a resume, and I will even tell a person when they're thinking about running for office, have a resume. Because with all due respect, you're wasting your time, you're wasting our time and their time for that matter. See, so it's very, very important that the person has to have some sort of background. And I really appreciate the fact that we're talking about this and sharing this with the public before they put that mark on the person. Make sure they check. Make sure you check. And I'm talking to the voters, make sure you check the resume. And it comes closest to the voters pamphlet that you get. You do get that. I mean, the other material that you normally get in the mail. I mean, sometimes it depends upon what it is, but always compare that with the voters pamphlet. Make sure you compare that with the voters pamphlet and read it. And so that's why it's very important. So guys, as you can see, I really appreciate the fact that you guys are on today, and I plan to have you guys on even beyond that. Now, there are some other issues that we want to talk about, but look like what we're going to do. We got about 5 more minutes that we're going to spend a couple times. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back, and then we're going to talk a little bit about maybe homeless. That's huge. What do you feel about the whole issue of coronavirus aspect of it, and the impact of that? Police is always an issue. There were some issues that were happening in Georgia that just recently happened, and we're right back, i.e. bringing the R card back to the table. I mean, we got to get a little bit more progressive and start dealing with people, because we're all in this together. And, we put some issues on the table. In many ways, we didn't solve it, but it was all about the money. It was all about the money. And so now, once the person has made the money, they say, look, it's not my problem anymore. Oh, yes, it is your problem. But the fact of it is, we got to deal with it, and time is now. We've got to. So what we're going to do, we are going to go on and take this. I think I got about 5 more minutes, right, Steve? I think so. I got about 5 more minutes. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go on and add that to the time. Next round, we're going to take this short break. We're going to come right back, and we're going to get ready in some of these other heavier deals. Again, happy Mother's Day, Mom. And you guys, same thing. You want to make that last piece. Go on, Manuel. Just say Happy Mother's Day, and Jack, same thing. Recognize Mom. This is Mother. I mean, for the other mothers that are out there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Happy Mother's Day for everyone watching this, and we'll be viewing this on YouTube. I hope you have a wonderful day, and all the appreciation for everything that you've done for your family and for your friends.
Yeah. Manuel, real quick.
Yeah. So for all mothers, I wish you the very best. And I know how much you love your children, and they love you back. Happy Mother's Day.
Right. And vote for these guys too, by the way. Don't forget about voting. I mean, for the ones that are still with us right up front, you have a vote. And make sure you tell the rest of the family what to do. Vote for these guys. Okay, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. Back here at the Oregon Voters Digest, I'm Bruce Broussard, your host. As you note, the first half, we talked a little bit about Mom, and we had 2 candidates on that were basically a part and parcel of that conversation. And so now what we're going to do, we're going to give each of them, the 2 guys that you saw on the show beginning, an opportunity to give them about 10 minutes each and to spend some time and talk a little bit about their campaign, and specifically, what are their issues and what are their solutions to those issues, and what are the issues in their respective areas of run. Maybe we'll start out with Jack, and Jack can spend some time now, and he's running for city council, and I'm just going to give it over to Jack. Okay, Jack.
Thank you, Bruce. The reason I'm running for Portland City Commissioner number 2 is Portland's heading in the wrong direction. Portland's heading in the wrong direction with homelessness. There is no coordinated plan to bring over 300 different nonprofits together to work effectively and help the homeless. Portland's heading in the wrong direction with affordable housing. The city has passed laws and instituted fees that are dramatically driving up the cost of housing, new construction, and also implementing policies that are causing rent prices to also spiral out of control. Portland's heading in the wrong direction with safe streets. Our city's plan, Vision Zero, to reduce fatalities is failing miserably. Portland's heading in the wrong direction with neighborhood associations. We have one commissioner that wants to eliminate neighborhood associations without any communication, collaboration whatsoever. Portland's heading in the wrong direction with the environment. We have a Zenith oil terminal down a few hundred feet from the Willamette River that's on an earthquake liquefaction zone. And if there's an earthquake of the right magnitude and the right location, millions of barrels of oil will spill into our Willamette, which will be an economic or environmental disaster. And finally, Portland's heading in the wrong direction with fiscal responsibility. All too often, we see cost overruns on projects of 2, 3, 400%. It's time we make sure that the taxpayers' money is spent efficiently and effectively, especially with this current economic downturn. And I'm Jack Kerfoot, and I'm running for Portland City Commissioner #2.
All right, Jack, thank you very, very much. And now we're going to go in Washington County, sort of abutts the city of Portland. Very, we got Manuel, he's here with us. You saw him in the first half hour. Manuel, why don't you sort of share with your voting public over here, your end of it, and also share with us what's your platform?
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you. My name is Manuel Castaneda. I'm running for Washington County Commissioner, District #1. My background serves me well to be able to solve and at least have a serious discussion about some of the serious issues that Washington County is facing today. And those are issues of traffic congestion, issues of affordable housing, homelessness, that we don't have it as bad as Portland, but we're beginning to see more and more. We have issues related to clean water and also livability issues. We want to improve all those things. We want to make sure that our kids have a great education, and our small businesses need to be supported. So as a small business owner and employer, I employ over 46 people here, and we have wonderful opportunities for all our employees. When it comes to training, we have one of the best training programs in the state. Some of our employees came here from Wendy's, from nurseries, from other places, truck drivers. Today, many of those are making between $75,000 and $120,000 a year. And to top it off, I don't think any of those people that I mentioned even has a high school diploma. But we don't just give away the money here. We have high expectations. And people rise to high expectations when you empower them, when you believe in them, but when you also hold them accountable. We need people in government that can do the same thing. We need our government, our departments, for example, our permitting department, to work better. It takes too long to process a simple permit, or we need to find out if a certain area can be built or cannot be built. But we need people that have experience in this field so that we can actually bring solutions. We can't just talk about it anymore. So with my background, I believe I can make a real difference. When you get ready to vote, you have your ballot now. Go ahead and vote for me. And I think I will bring lots of prosperity to our Washington County.
Okay, hey guys, let me throw this on the table with you guys right off the bat. Let's spend a little bit more time on the homeless issue, and that is a major factor here. And you can do that, and maybe you can include a little coronavirus situation and how that's being handled within your respective area, and what do you see as a solution? Okay, why don't we start with you, Manuel, this time, Ezra? Okay.
So I remember moving in here in 1979, and ever since then, I would bring people. When people came over to visit us, I loved taking them down to Portland, because Portland was one of the cleanest cities. It was just beautiful, and people fell in love with it. And now we have turned into this, what we used to be a clean, beautiful city, into a city that is difficult to walk by on sidewalks because they're being blocked or people are sleeping on them. So I'm very concerned about Washington County. I don't want it to become like what we see in Portland now. And I know we can do better. We can't just jump over people. We have to provide opportunities. We have to get out there and clean them up and help put them in a place um, where they can have hope. Right now, there is no hope. When you deliver something out to them where they're in a tent, what kind of hope is that? We need to figure out a new system. What we're doing right now is not working, obviously. It's actually growing instead of going the other way. So I really think we have missed a big opportunity here, and Washington County should not do whatever Portland did to get to where they are. And so I really want to make sure that the housing situation, the affordable housing, that we put in um, some real thought into how we're going to solve this issue. That we already know. I know what's driving the cost out of control. So I think I can do a lot of good there.
Okay. Jack, what do you think?
Well, when we talk about homelessness, first of all, let's take a look at the data. My background is science, so that's what I do. So between January of 2019 and January of this year, homelessness in the United States increased 2.7%. However, homelessness in Oregon increased 9.7% and 16.4% in California. So actually, contrary to what Mayor Wheeler is saying, homelessness in our state and homelessness in our city has actually been increasing over the past year. So that's the first factor. The second factor is it's far more complicated than just affordable housing. There are many reasons people are out there. No one really wants to be on the street, but sometimes it's addiction, sometimes it is alcohol addiction, sometimes it's mental illness, sometimes it's an economic downturn, sometimes it's an illness which has caused them to lose their job and lose their housing. So then the next step is to look at what programs have worked and what programs have failed across the United States. Programs in California which simply look at providing housing are not working because it's not addressing the full comprehensive issues that cause so many people to be homeless. So what programs have worked? Well, the best one that I've found so far and is recognized as the best is in San Antonio, where the city of San Antonio brought together the private sector, nonprofits, and faith-based groups to build a major complex called Haven for Hope that would help the homeless retrain, rebuild, help them through if it's addiction, the mental illness, medical problems, and then also help them get up on their feet so they could get a job and a program that will allow them to have sustainability for a long-term career off the streets. That takes on 1,200 people a year. They've been running at over an 80% success rate over the last decade. So that's the type of program that I think that we need to be looking at. What we have right now in Portland is over 320 different nonprofits all working independently to try and help the homeless. They're also competing for the same sources of funds at the state and the city levels. So we have actually a competitive forces that are not working in a collaborative manner. What's interesting is the faith-based groups, Muslim Federation, Jewish Federation, Protestant and Catholic churches have formed last year what is called the Open Table. They're working together to try and find out ways to collaborate and to help the homeless from that standpoint. I've met with them and I asked the question, would city council member or someone from the city be welcome at that table? And their first comment was, well, we'd have to ask for approval, but it would certainly improve our ability and the city's ability to coordinate and collaborate. So that's a very simple step that could be done to improve the efficiency to help the homeless that are out there. We must also maintain camp cleanups, quite candidly, for the safety of the residents in the homeless camp and also for the residents in the neighborhood, especially now with the coronavirus. From that standpoint, there are policies that can be implemented that will have a major impact on the homelessness. They are well documented. They are proven results. Instead of putting forward a proposal to spend money to address the homeless with no details, we need real plans with real substance based on case studies that have proven to work. If we do that with the right leadership, we can help our homeless crisis to be reduced. I'm particularly concerned now with the economic downturn. We are going to see a dramatic increase of the homeless, primarily from loss of jobs over the next few weeks. So it's a critical issue we must address, but we need the right leadership.
Thank you very much. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to bring Fred in, guys. And Fred's been around quite some time. He's in the real estate business, and he's also ran for office. So he's very familiar with the issues, whether they be on the streets and from a business standpoint or whatever. And so he's very active in terms of the whole social issues, the economic issues, and especially the real estate issue, because that is a major issue. And as you guys have mentioned about the cost of real estate and its impact on the livability of the citizens and the beauty of the city, whatever. So Fred, why don't you just come on in and just kind of give these guys and also the public who's looking at what we're talking about, just where are we at this point in time? Open book, share with us.
Well, you know, a lot of people have been trying for years to address the homeless issue. You know, I'm impressed that, I forgot his name just that quick, John, is that your name?
Jack and Daniel.
That you've done the research you have, but, you know, you've kind of come in this late, and but I like the path that you're trying to go down. It's impossible. It's not even necessary to compare Portland, Oregon to anything in Texas. We've got our issues for homelessness is different than their issues for homelessness in Texas. And this is something that we're going to have to change from the current community out. And there's really nobody else that we can turn to. 30% of our homeless people are just flat criminals. They're sex offenders and other criminals that really nobody's going to work with. They don't have jobs. They're not planning on getting jobs. They are out looking at creating crimes, and most of their victims are other homeless people. That's a fact. And I encourage anybody that wants to run for office to hang out with some Portland police officers and just look for yourself. Flat out 30% of our homeless population, straight up criminals. Most of those criminals aren't from Oregon. They're not from Portland. They come here because we're considered a passive market when it comes to dealing with homeless people, especially violent criminals. Our state has got a reputation among sex offenders as being an easy state to live in if you're a sex offender. So we've got issues that Texas doesn't have. Now, as far as the other 2/3 of the population, Jack, you identified them perfectly. That's exactly where they are. And a lot of those people, some of those people, I don't know what the percentage is, they will never be able to afford housing on their own. And we've got to accept that. So a certain percentage of our homeless people, we're going to be housing as long as they're alive. I don't know what that percentage is, but nobody is trying to identify them. There's two groups of people nobody's trying to identify. One, the straight up criminals, the ones that they'll never be workable because they're here to commit crimes and hurt people. And the people who just, I mean, they're decent people as far as, you know, they've got, you know, mental issues, or they had drug issues or disabilities that prevent them from ever being able to afford their own housing. We've got to accept that a certain percentage of people, we're just going to have to provide housing, and that housing is expensive. And then when you get those two groups out of the way, when you address the needs of those two groups, then you've got the people who you can help. And a lot of those people have jobs. I won't say, I don't know what the percentage is, but we've got a high percentage of people who have jobs but can't afford housing. They can't afford their initial upfront cost of getting into a home. That way, that means they're living in their cars, they're living in their SUVs. A small group are living in RVs. A lot of the ones that are living in RVs, well, like I said, they're just criminals. And we've got a lot of them here, more than people give credit for. And I personally don't feel the government should be trying to help criminals in any way to stay in Oregon. We should make Oregon a place they don't want to stay, especially since most of their victims are other homeless people. Now, one thing I will point out to both of you when it comes to homeless is sit down and talk with our social workers that are out helping a lot of these victims that these criminals are creating. Homeless women and their families who are preyed upon by sex offenders that our law enforcement is prohibited from coming down on. I mean, I can't believe a state that's run by so many women is so kind to child molesters and men that rape women. It's kind of funny. I mean, we're so kind. I was out with a police officer once, and we came across a homeless guy who's a registered sex offender in Florida. And I said, man, from Florida, you're a long ways away from home. Why are you in Oregon and not Florida? I mean, Florida's got better weather. And he literally said, I'm in Oregon because the cops out here don't bother people like me. And I go, like you, what are you? He says, I'm a sex offender. But I can't get a job in Florida. I can't get a job in Oregon either. But at least the cops aren't beating me up. You know, because they're told that the cops in Oregon, especially in Portland, are hands off. Leave them alone. Now, guys, I'm not saying every homeless person out there is a criminal. I don't think more than 30%. No more than 30%. But they're there. And until we allow law enforcement to step in and separate the criminals from the non-criminals, well, we're just going to keep treading water here. We're just going to keep doing things that don't work. And the last thing I want to bring up, Jack, is one thing I want you to think about, because I've been doing this since 1988. It's impossible to work with 300 groups on anything, period. Martin Luther King had a problem working with 5. You know what I mean? Had a problem working with 5. No, this is going to take something from leadership from the city. City commissioners and mayors are going to have to set the path and say, this is the direction we're going. They're going to have to get better control of staff at the city, you know, the bureaucracy at the city. And they're going to have to set goals that they can clearly follow and that are going to provide results. You know, that's what they're going to do. And they are going to have one of those groups be for-profit businesses. They're going to we need people who are what I call wealth-haters, because they don't want to work with the developers because the developers might make a profit. We need to encourage those people to leave Portland. Get my meaning? Because we do need a certain amount of people who are, you know, private sector people. Right. They're the ones that already own a lot of this land. And if we're either going to have them develop it or we're going to buy it from them and then develop it, which means we're going to have to invest even more money. You understand? We can't just come in and eminent domain it. One way or the other, government is going to have to work with private sector and private sector is going to have to work with government. And the people we've got in the middle that are causing this relationship not to develop like it should, like it always has in the past, are these damn wealth haters. I'm telling you. We got 2 rivers. I don't know why they're not covered, just floating with all these wealth haters here. Because these people have gotten in the way of the natural progression of real estate development here in Portland. And that's done nothing but make real estate more expensive. Nothing but make it more expensive. And these people, when I'm in their room with them, trust me, they know it. And I want a city commissioner and a mayor to be that way. The reason why these wealth haters know it is I give them attention. The attention these people need, because they have literally helped make people homeless. By limiting how much housing we develop in this market, we should be building housing like crazy right now. We should be building housing and encouraging people to develop ADUs and building up, you know, encouraging more development of duplexes and 3plexes and 4plexes. Anything we can do to bring in more, because the more housing we develop, friends, the less pressure, upward pressure there is going to be on the cost of space for the average citizen to rent or to buy. You know, so these so-called wealth haters who act like they're liberal and act like they care about humanity, you know, they say, guys, the devil's in the details. You know, they just get on my nut. And what these people do to Black people is unforgivable, because the people who are least able to compete in this thing that they've created are the Black people. That's why we're seeing more and more Black people leave Portland. They're just going away. So one day I tell people the definition of a minority in Portland will be a Hispanic person, but not a dark-skinned one. They're going to be Charlie Sheen white. You know what I mean? Right. We're going to have Charlie Sheen white Hispanics, and they're going to be considered minorities because everybody else is dark-skinned. Black people and the dark-skinned Hispanics, we're all going to be pushed out.
Okay. if I can respond to Fred's comment. First of all, I've been on 2 ride-alongs in the Central Precinct and the North Precinct, so I've heard similar responses to the issues about some of the homeless camps that are a haven for criminals. The second factor, when we talk about preying on preying on the other homeless people, I think that's true. The other issue that worries me tremendously is the fact that we're second in the nation only to Las Vegas in the total number of sex trafficking cases. And that's because, as you said, Washington and California have made it more of a crime to prosecute sex traffickers. I read one study of NFBI that there was 480 cases of victims over a 4-year period of time, but they estimated that was only probably 10%. The average age of that was 15 and a half, and the youngest was 8. So
Well, Jack,
that's another issue
I
that
hope
has to be
you
addressed.
reach out to these women that we vote for, because I'm telling you, I have never seen a group of people who are so friendly to sex offenders. You understand? Most of the Democrats that we vote for that are female, they have a kinder and gentler approach to rapists and sex offenders, which cracks me up when you consider what we've gone through with the Me Too movement. You know
Well,
what I mean?
the other factor I would say is the Portland Teachers Association is well aware of it, because their concern is a lot of these groups are forming, these criminals are forming and setting up modeling agencies as close as they can to middle schools and to high schools to lure young victims in with the promises of good paying jobs as a model, and you don't have to finish school, and then turn them into nothing more than slaves to be trafficked.
Jack,
So,
you're right, but the problem is results matter. Those same, I know that Oregon School Education Association is basically run by women, and those women do not hold the women that they endorse accountable for what they do when it comes to protecting Oregonians from sex offenders. They don't. They go ahead and endorse them and invite them to their parties and treat them like, hey, you are a progressive leader. We're so proud of you. And then that woman that we vote for goes down to Salem or gets on city council or a county commission, and they got nothing but milk and cookies to guys that rape women and molest children. I mean, just look at how we're nationally known as the milk and cookie state when it comes to how we approach sex offenders. We're national, and guess what, guys? Wasn't it 30 years ago, almost 30, we got rid of a senator for saying naughty things to grown women? You know what I'm talking about? But we also got a state that is kind of baby rapers, and it's run by women.
well, unfortunately, we had a case of a convicted sex offender that trafficked a young girl starting when she was 11 years old. And he received a 7.5-year jail sentence.
That's all.
And he'd been trafficking her for over 6 years
Yeah.
from that standpoint. So yes, those are things that have to be addressed. As far as the business sector, one thing, Fred, that I'd mention is that quite candidly, the city's reputation is either ambivalence to new businesses or downright hostility. I'd heard that Apple, who was interested in coming to Portland and setting up a new operation, and they were targeting actually the area in Southeast Portland for a major R&D center. And so I couldn't find any more information, so I had my campaign manager reach out to them, and he went down to Cupertino, and yes, they are. They see Portland as an excellent place as a tool that they can use to recruit highly skilled and highly competitive technical graduates from universities that are also competing or looking at job offers from Microsoft and other major corporations around the world. And their comment is the lowest cost of living on the West Coast, the climate, all the outdoor activities that we have, the parks and all the city activities that are there. We really see Portland as something we can use to attract people, fresh graduates, to our company.
Hey, Jack,
but-
I'm familiar with that project,
Okay,
and they're not coming to Portland. They're looking at Clark County right now.
right. And the reason is because they felt the city council is feeling either ambivalent or hostile toward that. So that's
Well, no,
gotta stop.
they met with Chloe Eudaly, and I'm not going to get into everything that I was told and everything like that, but let's just say she's a queen wealth hater. You know what I'm talking about? And basically, there is no way in hell that they're going to be coming into Portland. But they want to be close to Portland. So they are looking at Washington County. Remember that, Washington County, They're looking at
Manuel.
Clackamas County.
Yes.
But their favorite right now, and I think where it's actually going to go, I almost feel like I know where the land that they're going to go to is right now Clark County.
Okay.
That's the most favorable location for them, both state level and county and city level. But they're looking, there's opportunities in Washington County and Clackamas County too. But I think a year from now, we're going to be hearing about them landing in Clark County.
Well, let's give Manuel an opportunity. He's in Washington County and he's abutting us here. Man, what do you think? What do you think? Have you heard anything?
I think I should give Apple my phone number so they can start calling here. We would welcome Apple here in Washington County, or anybody else that want to come and do business in
Manuel,
Washington.
they're already out there, Manuel. You need to
time with Ted.
relationships with more real estate brokers.
Yeah, yes.
They're already out there in Washington County.
Yeah. Okay. Good. We need them here. We need
good.
every possible business that can come and build here and employ people here. Because, I mean, let's face it, if we don't have a good thriving economy and good businesses here, then all the other problems, they're not going to be solved. Everything takes money to solve them.
Everything takes money, and that's why wealth-haters are getting in the way. I mean, I honestly think that these wealth-haters have been sent here by people who just want to destroy the city. Because I've grown up here. I've lived here since I was a kid, and we've never been a greedy town. I mean, Portland's always had its business and stuff like that, but we got people, and most of them not from here. They moved here after they graduated high school or college, and they come out here and they get in the way of every progressive thing that Portland needs to be able to grow and continue to be an efficient, livable city. And they do it under the guise of, hey, we can't let developers make money. I tell you, if you're around a person like that, remember, we got 2 rivers here. See if these guys can swim. Take pictures and put it on Facebook.
Well, the other problem, Fred, we've got to recognize is several things. The continuing issuing of bonds is actually driving up property taxes. And I'm talking to people in Southeast Portland and North Portland that are concerned that they're not going to be able to keep their house simply because they can't afford to keep up with the property tax increases.
Jack,
as we continue
right.
to
I mean, look at what happened to the Franklin High School area after the last 2 bond measures.
Right.
It's completely started a gentrification trend in Lentz that is making Lentz less and less affordable every month.
Really?
But how do you get my average Democrat, and by the way, I'm a Democrat, how do you get my average Democrat to acknowledge that, to accept that? I mean, I tell everybody, in Oregon, we don't need mean and nasty Republicans because we've got a lot of Democrats that are doing their job for them. You know what I mean? I mean, basically, these people behind it, they could have developed the school bond measure in a way in which it didn't have such a negative impact on affordability. But these guys, and I know who they all are, I insult them on Facebook all the time. They created this atmosphere, this environment that's basically kicking the idea of affordable housing out in Lentz out of the window.
Absolutely. And that's the area that I was talking to quite a few people out there. Absolutely.
Oh, it's gonna get worse. And guess what, Jack? They're working on another school bond. Now, I think they were gonna bring it in the year 2021. I think it's going to be 2023 now because of the virus.
Right.
But they are literally plotting and planning how to bring in another school bond of $1 billion or more.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Do they care about what they're doing to affordable housing? No. Do they care about what they're doing to minorities, like people that look like me, who happen to not have gotten into real estate 32 years ago? It's the only reason I can afford to live in my neighborhood, I mean, these white people, and all of them are white, every one of them, they're all white and rich. They are right now plotting and planning to put another school bond measure in because they really want a day Hispanics that look like Charlie Sheen living in Portland, Oregon.
All right, as you can see,
they like your color, but you're just a tiny bit dark for it.
I'm gonna have to break in now because this swamp is getting pretty heavy, as you can see. They're rattling the bucket. So anyway, we got to go on and extend this to another show.
Yeah.
Fred, thanks very much for your comments. Guys, thank you very, very much for being here, participating. And by the way, Fred, say hi to your mom too, by the way. We wish her a happy Mother's Day. Will you please?
Okay, I wish her happy Mother's Day.